Today, Sayadaw will conclude his talk about metta. Metta is a very deep topic, and if one were to discuss it in full, combining what's in the text as well as practice, it would take about 1 month. Now, in terms of just the theory, it will take not very long at all to discuss, about an hour. But when we combine practice in theory, Sayadaw's talk combines practice in theory, talking about how to actually practice metta takes some time. Now, although we're discussing metta as a kusala practice, as a wholesome practice, it can be taken all the way up to the jhanas. The practice of metta can be developed all the way up to the jhanas. And things such as how to select an appropriate subject for one's metta meditation are discussed at length in the text. Ashin Thariputra, Venerable Thariputra, in the text Patisambhida Magga, in the Brahmavihara Sutta, outlined all of the details about metta meditation. Metta is a practice which concerns everyone. It's relevant for every single type of person, to people all over the world, of whatever religion one may be, whether Muslim or Hindu. Some people worship the spirits, but every human being has a mind, no matter what their religion is. And if one has no true metta, then whoever we are, we become wild. So there must be metta. It is a Dhamma that is relevant to all of us. So at this time, Sayadawji's been discussing metta in the context of a guardian meditation for people who are practicing satipatthana. Metta is needed so that we can practice easily, comfortably, freely. Today Sayadawji will talk about the nature of metta, its function, its manifestation, and its nearest cause. Monks study the text. They analyze things according to the Abhidhamma. The Abhidhamma contains a way of looking at individual dhammas in terms of 4 points. One is their lakkhana, and the second is rasa. Third is pachupatthana, and the fourth is padatthana. Lakkhana means the characteristic or the mark of a quality. Rasa means its function, what it does. And number 3, the pachupatthana, means how it manifests to the practitioner, manifestation. And the 4th point, padatthana, means among many causes for metta to arise, it is the nearest cause. Padatthana is the nearest cause for a particular Dhamma to arise. Today, Sayadawji will explain the lakkhana, rasa, pachupatthana, and padatthana of metta. So, in order to understand these concepts easily, Sayadawji will give an example. There are 4 basic elements, 4 great elements that make up physicality. earth, air, fire, and water. So the earth element, patavi, is called patavi, and it manifests as hardness and softness. For example, our bones are hard, and our muscles, our skin are soft. That quality of either hardness or softness is due to the earth element, patavi. And the water element manifests as either solidity or cohesion or flowing. So this is called apo. And the heat element is called tejo. And this can manifest as either heat or cold. This temperature is what is called tejo. And vayu, the air element, manifests as stiffness or tension or movement. Now, in our body, we can see that if we move our limbs, the muscles are involved, the bones are involved, there's stiffness, there's hardness, at times softness, at times heat. So these four are the basic elements within physicality, and one needs to understand this. Okay, so Sayadaw, among these four great elements, Sayadaw first takes the example of tejo dhatu, the heat element. The tejo dhatu, the heat element, causes heat, warmth, lightness, and it can also manifest as coldness. This is the nature of tejo dhatu. This is its characteristic, its lakkhana: heat or warmth or lightness, also coldness, heaviness. Now, what does tejo dhatu do? It causes things to be cooked. So, for example, in order to cook meat, we heat it. And by applying heat, the meat becomes cooked. So, this is the function. We can also burn things with heat. So this is the function of the heat element, its capability, its rasa. It makes raw things to become cooked. So to make something cooked, in essence. Now, because of the third thing to consider is how it manifests. Because of cooking something, like meat, the meat becomes tender, soft and tender. And this is how it manifests. This is its manifestation, or pachupatana. The thing which is, because of the cooking, something becomes soft and tender. And each of the four great elements doesn't exist in solitude. They all occur together. So each one is supported by the other three. When the heat element is present, there's also the air element, the fire element, and the earth element present. The water element to cause things to be coherent, to cohere. The element of the air element, vayu, which makes something either stiff or soft, and the earth element, which makes things hard or not. So for tejo dhatu, its nearest cause are the remaining three elements: vayu, apo, and patavi. He gave an example of a person who wants the welfare of another. He or she does something, wanting the welfare of another, wanting what's good for them, and wants them to. This person wants another to have sila, wants them to have a good mental attitude, be able to develop samadhi, and wants them to have knowledge. And this type of attitude in the mind, wanting another's welfare, this wish for what is good for other people, is the characteristic of metta. It's the basic element, or it's what, when this is present in the mind, we know that there is metta. When there's the wishing well for another, is the presence of wishing well for another in one's mind is the characteristic of metta. And in Pali, that is called satanang hitakara puvati lakkhana. This is the natural characteristic of metta. And in the text, although it is not said directly, metta is wanting another to be free of enemy, to be comfortable, to be free of mental distress and physical discomfort. So this wish in the mind, this is metta that is based in the mind, and it's also called manokama metta. It's metta. It's a mental state that has metta as its prominent aspect. So the lakkhana of metta is wanting what's good for another. And when one develops the quality of wanting another's welfare again and again, when this attitude becomes strong, then one carries out physical acts that are combined with metta, and speaks with a mind of metta. So what one has in mind is the wish for another's welfare. But when this becomes strong, then one acts upon that wish by doing and saying things with metta, carrying out what is good for other people. So this is called hitupasanhara rasa. This is how metta functions. The metta is strengthened and complemented by physical acts and speech, which are done and spoken with metta. Now, acts which are informed with metta, or which have metta at the forefront, are called metta pobengama kaya kamma. Kaya kamma means physical kamma, and metta pobengama means having metta at the forefront. And speech that is informed with metta is metta pobengama vachikama. So the origin is the attitude we have in our mind, the wish for others' welfare, wanting what's good for another, and then what happens is we act to bring that about. That's the rasa, or function, of metta. If we have true metta, and we have understanding together with that, the metta manifests as agata vinyapachupatana, the dispelling of quarrels, dispelling of resentment. This is the result that appears in our mind due to metta. Now, we may have some quarrels, we may have some resentments. That can happen. But if we have basic metta, if we really want what is good for others, and then we act on that mind state, if we put our metta into action and into speech, the result is that metta manifests as dispelling whatever resentments we might have. Due to one's metta, no matter how hateful the object is, no matter how much resentment we might have, that resentment will disappear due to our metta. So metta removes grudges. That's its manifestation. And for someone who naturally finds it easy to have an attitude of metta, there's nothing needs to be said. But for those who tend to hold grudges, this is very, very useful to know about. So we need to have really a genuine attitude of wanting what's good for others. And based on that attitude, we need to put that into action and into our speech. If we do that, our quarrels will just dissolve. And Sayadaw mentioned part of a verse but that is the manifestation of metta. When one develops metta, one can gain 11 benefits, beginning from being able to sleep easily, being able to wake easily, and so on. And if one knows this, one will consider this and have the desire to generate metta. Knowing that one can get these benefits, one reflects that metta will be good to develop. And when we develop metta, our mentality led by metta becomes strong. When it's strong, no matter how horrible someone may be, no matter how much resentment we may have, or no matter how hateful another person may be to us, if we have a straightforward attitude of mind, with this desire to develop metta, if we develop metta, as Sayadaw mentioned, first develop the attitude and then putting it into action with genuine spirit, the resentments, whatever they are, will surely fade. There are many causes for metta to arise, and among these, the nearest cause, the one that will cause metta to arise the quickest and easiest, is to see the good point, the good aspect, some good aspect about the person or the group of persons towards whom you want to develop metta. So you need to try to look for their good point or points, some lovable aspect, some satisfying aspect about that person or group, something that our metta can get a handle on. You have to ignore the person's bad points. If you dwell on them, what will happen is hatred and anger will arise. You'll only have more negativity if you dwell on what you feel is bad about someone or a group. So you have to ignore those points, and you have to try to find out something that is satisfying or good or likable about the object. So, for example, perhaps that person did something for you sometime, or perhaps their actions, they act well in certain circumstances, or perhaps if they don't act well, perhaps sometimes their speech is good, or they may have a good aptitude for certain subjects. You have to try to find something that you are satisfied with about the person or the group of persons. And this is called in Pali Satanang Manapa Bhava Dasana Padatana. The nearest cause for metta is seeing what is lovable or dear about another person. And as Sayadaw just said, it comes from seeing another's good side. This seeing another person's or another group's good side, good point, is what will cause metta to start. It's the start of metta, and you have to just ignore, disregard the faults that may be there. Well, this is the type of attitude that one needs to encourage. One needs to establish and develop this type of metta. This is our duty. This is the duty of everyone. And Sayadaw mentioned a verse that I'll say for you in English. This is about the 4 points. Wanting what's good for another, working to bring that about. Danger dissolves when quarrels subside. It comes from seeing another's good side. Let's all plant metta in our hearts. Cultivate metta in our hearts. Cultivate friendship in our hearts. So this is the Burmese, the English version of what Sayadaw Ji just chanted. So would you like to all repeat after me? To learn these, the first line is the lakkhana. Wanting what's good for another. Repeat that. Wanting what's good for another. Another time. Wanting what's good for another. Okay, one line at a time. Okay, so sorry. I have to do this one line at a time. Mama. The second line is working to bring that about. Working to bring that about. Danger dissolves when quarrels subside. Danger dissolves when quarrels subside. It comes from seeing another's good side. It comes from seeing another's good side. Let's all plant metta in our hearts. Let's all cultivate metta in our hearts. Develop friendship in our hearts. Wanting what's good for another. Working to bring that about. Danger dissolves when quarrels subside. It comes from seeing another's good side. Let's all plant metta in our hearts. Cultivate metta in our hearts. Cultivate friendship in our hearts. Since the hour is up, Sayadaw Ji concludes by saying that now we've learned how to reflect on the qualities of the Buddha or the qualities of the Dhamma, and we can do this for 1 minute at the beginning of the sitting, of each sitting. And we can do metta, loving kindness, for about 1 minute at the beginning of the sitting. May all beings be free of enemies. May all beings be free of distress. May all beings be free of physical discomfort. May all beings be able to carry themselves happily. So when we can do these protective meditations. And of the 4 guardian meditations, there are still 2 more to go. And Sayadaw Ji will talk about those. Sayadaw Ji will talk about those tomorrow, and then continue to discuss Satipatthana. That's all for today. sadhu, sadhu.